So Max, do you have your presentation ready?
I do. I do have my presentation.
Also, where the fuck were you?
It said that 3 p.m. CST was 9 here, and I came on at 9.
Yep.
They switched their clocks today.
Yeah, we switched our clocks.
Yeah.
It's really worried about.
We'll get fucked because every person in the nation switched their clocks.
It had to be today.
Just today.
Of
Well,
all
2
days.
days out of the 365. Get fucked.
And don't forget, then the next time is when we switch our clocks. They won't have, so we'll be off time.
Fuck!
Oh yeah,
God damn
Make
it!
sure to keep track of when the British Isles switch clocks.
we're doing that around. Oh fuck! Probably near Easter, I think it happens. It's been about 6 months we do it in October, so probably March.
Yeah.
Yeah, it usually sneaks
My-
up on me, and then I'm like, oh god.
My entire political philosophy is based around how pointless daylight saving is in the
Yeah.
modern era.
Yep.
You've built a religion out of it.
We worship the sun.
All right. Okay. So, just we do it.
Gotta share your screen there,
Yeah.
Maximilian.
All right.
Is Max short for anything? Is it even your
No.
real name?
You. I guess you will never know.
Okay,
But
fine.
What is a max?
Pepsi Max.
That's whatever you want it to be.
How is a max?
Why is it Max? Isn't that the question? All right. B.
I'll wait.
I'm also just trying to restart my
Oh,
freaking audio recording. So
Oh, okay, got it.
I got this.
And I'll put a Google Drive Dropbox in I'll pin it to the Swag Academy chat so everyone can just send their audio recordings there.
Righty. Yeah. So, it's time to go live. Yeah, we're doing it. It's happening.
Look it, we're doing it live.
We're live. All right. So, gamers, how's it going? You like video games?
Hello.
Correct. We got a lot of wild things that happen in video games, don't we? So we got button combos, randomization, stuff like that. Things that define genres of video games, right? And there are so many, and many have died out, and many have come back and through the fashion of video games, shall we say. But some are real bad, or people who hate a lot. And they kind of continue just to kind of exist in video games despite people's best efforts to make them not. So I'm gonna show you something. Well, how does this make you feel? What do you? I'd like to get some audience participation. What do you think of this image? What does it make you feel about life games?
I'm tearing up just looking at it.
Respectful.
So I played Infinite Warfare like on launch. I had no context that this was coming up. I played COD campaigns for the campaign. That was why I bought Advanced Warfare. And this scene made me fucking break out laughing because this was like your best friend and you're at his fucking funeral.
It's a quick time event to pay respect.
Yeah.
Can you miss it? You missed the quick
No, it's a prompt. It's not a quick time event, unfortunately.
Press E to take your PTSD
What?
medications.
That's the thing, because it kind of is, but we'll get into it. So, you may have guessed, this is about QuickTime events. So, we're doing QuickTime events now. We're going to look through a bit of them. We're going to think about them, think about what the fuck happened, why they went real bad. But first, we got to get to what is a QuickTime event? So it's prompts video games that require a certain button to activate, usually with little warning. I guess for Skipty, that Advanced Warfare one had no warning and it emotionally killed him.
Yep.
Yeah.
I died.
But yeah, so it's kind of like a very generic term. It's more generic than I think people think about, but it still has some specificities. Because if it was just like, hey, you need to press a button not to die, that's all buttons in video games, basically. You're pressing all your buttons not to die. So we're going to break it down. Bear with me. Hold on. We're doing the legwork. So a lot of if anyone knows, like real early video games, especially arcade stuff, basically all QuickTime events. We've got Dragon's Lair, the first kind of big one, that had just kind of like a huge acclaim and fame for people back then, because they didn't know what games were, they didn't do it good, and they were just kind of big movies that if you didn't press the button right, you died, which is a lot of games back then, especially arcadey ones. Anyone played Dragon's Lair, by the way?
Yeah,
Anyone?
that's just because I'm a fucking Dom Bluth nerd. So
Yeah, the animation is fucking stellar.
I've
They
never
made,
played
they
it, but
made
I've
one
seen
out of
animations.
one of the Lupin the Third movies.
Really? I
Yeah.
had no idea. Huh. I'm a huge Lupin fan. Damn, that's a shocker to me.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
So this is kind of like the first kind of quick time events that we see in gaming, like happen from this. It's kind of like near the beginning of like video game history. It's not like Pac-Man levels of old, but it's pretty old for games. When they got real like big and popular, it's probably Shenmue, that kind of time. And there was a big open world game. Everyone, I guess at the time, loved it. Has anyone played Shenmue?
no.
No, I haven't even played the Yakuza series, so I'm a little bit behind.
Oh,
I heard the third one isn't that great.
Noted.
Yakuza's kind of a weird one because it fronts like it is a big, very serious game about Yakuza, but really it's about toy car racing, being an estate agent, and those are far more important. Also, like, following the story of a degenerate man who's naked all the time and wears a diaper, and also helping a dominatrix. So, you know,
Japan is a weird place.
that is a
Sounds
weird-
like my life story.
Yeah. I mean, my last line of this thing is Japan out here making anime, tech companies, and cast game mechanics. So that's really, from what the research I've done of this, what I would have taken away from it. All questionable. So, what are your opinions on quick time events? Because many people are like this. These kind of feelings that they're pointless, they're dull, unrewarding mechanics implemented for no good reason for progression's sake. And it limits players' influence on the game that you're playing, right? A lot of people would say they should be used sparingly, but especially when they're in cutscenes and they are used sparingly, people also get mad because they're distracting and then they kind of like take you out of the moment. Would you agree with this statement, with this thesis?
Yes. I think quick time events are a dated mechanic that was really around during like the early-ish 2000s, kind of like mid-2000, like 2010s for games and whatnot. Like it was a easy thing to throw in for a design where it's like, oh, well, we have an action scene or something intense happening. We need to button press and whatnot. I know.
But so you
God
got
of War.
you got Spider-Man right there. And I think that the Spider-Man PS4 has the best QuickTime mechanics I've ever used because the button is always like the button you would think you'd be pressing. Like there will be those moments where you have to aim the stick and then press the web sling button, but it's not a random button. It's just what you would be doing if you were playing the game instead of watching the cutscene. And it really keeps you in the moment because you feel like, oh, this is a cutscene. Normally I could take a breath, but I'm fucking Spider-Man. I have to keep the world together. And so I can't even stop for a moment. Like this cutscene is going to make me do something.
I have not played.
We'll get that.
Oh yeah, I would say I haven't played a quick time event game since like Telltale games, right? Where it's everything is just like move the cursor and press circle and then dash circle and do this and that. So it felt very like procedural and not necessarily like additive to the gameplay. Like I haven't played.
Yeah, I don't want to add. I don't think I put anything about Telltale in here because if I wanted to do a presentation on Telltale games, I feel like that'd be its own thing.
the choose your own adventure, but there is no choice.
Yeah, I have like a love-hate relationship with Telltale games,
Same
especially
here.
because I feel like the first Telltale game you probably play is like, wow, and then it's like, oh, this is all the same.
Yeah, like
Right.
there's the problem with Telltale games, which I don't understand. And this is just a sidebar rant about video games in general. I don't understand why there aren't more games out there that have like definitive pathing and like choices for different endings. Like take Telltale for an example.
Play
It's
more
either-
indie games.
No, but I mean like on a
Except
on a
for Ghosts of
massive
Indie Game Pass.
Yes.
The biggest, it's not to interrupt you, Cullen, I'm sorry, but
Go for
the biggest like AAA example that I can think of, and it's not a great one, admittedly, like the changes aren't massive depending on your choices, but I would say BioWare is probably, unfortunately, the best at it.
I've played all of them twice over. So,
At making your choices actually matter, like the Dragon Age series, the Mass Effect series.
I thought you meant for QuickTime events. So
Oh yeah. Let's get back on track here.
I'm on a new side tangent now.
But there is something I wanted to add to the QuickTime event discussion, and it's that I kind of share Skipty's sentiment that if done well, it can add a unique layer to a game's the core gameplay. Like if you have to, like during a fight, have to be ready for whenever the next QuickTime event is going to come up, it'll keep you more in. It keeps the player, the gamer, more. What's the word I'm looking for? It keeps them more engaged. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, not to. But yeah, it keeps them engaged. Whereas it can be done poorly, and if it done poorly, then it's like Cullen said, it just feels like a meaningless additive to the game.
Like the fucking Callisto Protocol makes you mash square every time you open a door.
Yeah, that shit's annoying. Like, let me just lockpick it like in Fallout or Skyrim. Like, it really is that simple. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it with game mechanics.
Yeah. That's the thing as well, because QuickTime events are kind of an old mechanic that worked, but over time kind of didn't work because games got better, which was weird. It's like, people love them, especially like the old Dragon's Nest stuff and like the Shenmue things. People were like, oh, this makes it feel like I'm doing more things in the world, and it's like more of my choice. And then as games were like, oh, you can actually like do things better and more interestingly now with what we give you and the interface. A lot of the way people implemented QuickTime events kind of didn't change. But we'll get there. We're gonna get there. Especially talking about that. Where did they go? Where are we seeing them today?
Where did they go? Yeah. This is an example of something that they broke that they didn't fix.
Yes. Because like over time, you see a lot of QuickTime events and a lot of very heinous ones at that, making it into like games that are usually like universally acclaimed for being good, with these mechanics and that people universally hate in them. Like, look at Resident Evil 4. I don't know if a single person actually doing like the harder difficulties of that game or like hardcore permadeath runs like these mechanics at all. It's a very cursed thing to put in a hardcore game, especially when it's like, oh, you need to press it very quickly, but then sometimes it just won't register, so then you just die anyway. Good luck. We see them here for many, many reasons. And there are quite a few kind of instances, both good and bad, for the kind of perpetual use of QuickTime events in modern gaming still. In the I guess I'll call it like the tens-ish, the teens, is where I'm thinking of like modern gaming kind of still lying inside of. But yeah, we've got developer disconnect, where the people working on these games think it's like a really cool way to like streamline something very detailed and give the players some interaction. When a lot of the time it doesn't do that because people don't think about what a QuickTime event is. And you've got rhythm games, which still have a huge presence in gaming. Lots of people like it. I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure like a lot of dance revolution kind of type games or Friday Night Funk and things are more like parlor tricks than games. But hey,
wow, you're gonna trigger some audience members with that one.
Dude, I loved Guitar Hero growing up, and
I think
games. Great. Well, the whole game is designed around QuickTime events. If that's the pipeline we're going down, then that's not
is a QuickTime event.
Yeah, then that's very different compared to like cutscene has press X and you missed the press X button, therefore you died. Like that's the difference.
Well, and that kind of goes back to the original point you were making, Max, is that a QuickTime event is kind of a very broad term. Like that could be just about fucking anything in a video game. Like that could be like when like in a FromSoft game, you break an enemy's guard and they're like crouched down, waiting for you to stick your sword in their chest. Like,
Yeah,
like,
Pop Tarts are a sandwich, cereal's a soup. This is where we're going, aren't we?
yeah, like, it's just an incredibly broad term.
Yeah, you could. I mean, if cereal was just like a dairy product with a carb in it, you could have yogurt with bread in it as cereal. At that point, that's not. I don't think I'd agree with that.
Is the ocean
Yogurt
soup
with bread. But I think the useful and narrow definition would be like a cutscene that gives you button prompts that will interrupt the cutscene if you fail them, or like will penalize the player. And I think that's the definition Max introduced at the beginning of this.
But also one of the things that people are talking about with the kind of like games being designed around them. For this example, like Stranglehold, the game I found while researching, they had a lot of grand ideas for how to use kind of like quick time events to help like increase the player's feeling of depth and immersion in something, and then like they would have these moments where you perform these room-wide like kills or like end of fight triggers to kind of kick off or like finish a fight. And that was this kind of like final paragraph here is kind of the intended feel of what the game developers wanted it to be like. And the kind of reality of that, if I go to this, is we'll see a lot of very look at that guy.
He got the whole room.
He got the whole room. Yeah, but it's especially this guy just kind of dropping like a ragdoll. It doesn't make me feel like it kind of is one of those very jarring moments in a game where rather than feeling cool, yeah, you kind of die of old, you die of old age. So yeah, something caught my eye. What's the point of this presentation then? If I'm just saying, hey, QuickTime events bad. But we'll get into that because it's been mentioned before. There are some kind of decent QuickTime events in there and ways to implement them better. So I'm going to do a lukewarm defense using a few examples of also the mechanics in ways that have been used well recently and the kind of line being blurred between them and how they've been integrated into gameplay in ways that are good and fun and pretty cool. So one of my faves, and maybe I'll do a whole presentation of why this dumb game I love so much, is Azura's Wrath, which is, local man too angry to die punches God, Earth, and reality to death. What
I've wanted to play it for so long.
Do I need to leave you two alone? Like,
I was going to say, can I vote for that guy?
So you'll see here, there's a big giant man, big finger. You're so small, and then there's so much impact in these little moments that you get in this game. So I thought I'd just take out a few little animations and cutscenes from it, just to see. You get these huge impacts that are kind of backed up with these very cool scenes and cinematics, and they're integrated into the game in a different way than just like being button pressed to do thing and feeling a bit disconnected. It's all very reactionary, almost more like a counter system in like a fighting game than just like a button you press to make a character do something so you don't die. And showing all of these, especially because a few of these are very different and the ways they do them, rather than pulling you out of the game, it makes you feel more immersed, I guess, in my opinion, with the game itself, because it's being much more reactionary too. But again, this game is near and dear to my heart and is very big and very stupid and dumb. A more, I guess, universally acclaimed one is Hi-Fi Rush.
Degenerate refuses to take L, dismantles capitalism in the process.
Am I wrong? Is there a lie?
Here's my vote. I'm voting for this guy.
Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush, especially in the way it does its combat, even more so than like Azura's Wrath, kind of like builds in QuickTime events into its combo meter, and it's almost like Devil May Cry style point feature. And I have a little YouTube thing that I'll just show. Probably not bit too much or too loud, just for a little bit, just to showcase that, like, much like a rhythm game in the way that they're not necessarily like killing you if you don't do it. You gain points, and depending on if you do certain on-screen prompts and events, you get better points and also do more damage. It's a great way to integrate this kind of like rhythmic QuickTime kind of mechanic into a game itself. And then of course Beat Saber, which is just it's a QuickTime event.
I don't know if Beat Saber necessarily counts as a QuickTime event, because you could argue like the act of being in VR means that everything is a QuickTime event, because you're basically working in real time all the time.
Yeah, it is a cutscene that you interact with.
Right.
But it is a
Our
cutscene
hero
you
with
interact with.
sticks.
But this one is a cutscene you interact with, though, right? It's Guitar Hero, but your sticks are the button.
I am the guitar.
Yeah,
Your Honor, that is an interesting statement.
you
Your
are
Honor,
the
he
guitar.
was in fact the guitar.
You are in fact the button. I've just grabbed one of these because I was like, hey, you can. He's doing all the moves. He's doing the stuff. Look at him. It's quick. This is, if anything, one of the quickest timed events you could have in a game.
Arguably
Am I
so,
wrong?
yeah.
Am I wrong?
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I think specifically because I was thinking about like other more VR stuff, especially as gaming evolves, and including that in the conversation. That it's important to think about what I would want to draw the limit and the line. So yeah, Beat Saber as well. Lots of people love, and it's basically Guitar Hero, but you are the guitar. As Skipty said.
Yep.
But yeah, of course, there are many other iconic moments in games that are QuickTime events that people don't usually mention, or I never really hear them mentioned as like QuickTime events or in that conversation. Kind of like for narrative and story purposes, like Link kind of during Sword Out in Legend of Zelda, you kind of like, even though it's like you're just holding a button and you're the kind of way it interacts with the narrative and what's shown on the screen and what you're doing, and also your progress in the story, it's kind of like a nice moment for you. And it's kind of more of like, while not the quickest time event, it's still like something you're interacting with. And
all those fucking dungeons for a sword that still breaks.
yeah, but they have a different issue with Breath of the Wild.
But in the moment, you feel as stressed as Link, knowing that at some point you're gonna have to let go of that button.
Yeah, it's either like, if I didn't do it well, if I didn't do enough dungeons, I'm gonna die.
Mm.
Or if you're like me, you say fuck it and send it.
Oh God.
Send it, and then Link
And then die.
Life.
Yeah, fucking cardiac arrest.
But then like Dead Space 2, one of the moments that I was spooked by the most. They're just like a visceral level.
Oh yeah, that's
easily
like if you were alive or watching Let's Plays in the mid 2010s, that moment haunts your nightmares.
And that's like, it's again very slow for a QuickTime event, but it's like it's your input that defines if you do or do not stab your character's eye out in that time. And it has your dead crazy.
Your totally
alien
alive girlfriend, your girlfriend who's completely alive the whole time.
Exactly, your very alive partner.
Yep,
she's in Canada.
Yeah, she's in Canada,
but she's also talking in your mind and singing a like nursery rhyme or something at you while you stick a needle in your eye.
And
This is really weird. I've only played the first Dead Space.
Gitzo posting.
And your image in the top right for Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, I think it could be argued of all games, that game is one long QuickTime event.
Yeah. It's got a similar vein, I think, from what a lot of people that Zero's F does for me, where it's just like so fucking dumb and over the top, but like the way it uses QuickTime events, they don't take away from the experience. They make you feel like you're just releasing a lot of stress in the moment, especially near the end where you're fighting Senator Armstrong. What a fucking meme.
Character of the decade.
Nanomachine, son. Yeah, and one that I don't know if I really know or talk about as much, but in Batman Arkham Asylum, maybe it's like the Arkham Asylum or City. I think it's Asylum. Where you fight Ra's al Ghul, and a few other moments, but particularly this one sticks in my mind from when I played it. There's like, you have a counter mechanic in it, where you can counter based on like a prompt that appears above an enemy's head, which I think can vary between QuickTime in a lot of cases, or not.
I think the Arkham combat system got adapted to like, because press a button to block, press a button to parry. Like it got turned into more of a gameplay mechanic than just being a QuickTime event. Because so many games basically ripped it. Mad Max, Shadow of Mordor, Spider-Man to some extent. So I don't know if that necessarily counts.
Yeah, but this one particularly, when you're fighting Rush or Ghoul, there's like a moment, especially because it's like you're doing all these counters throughout the game, where like a bajillion fucking shadow ninjas jump out the air, and then you're like, you have to counter all of them, and then the X comes up the counter, and you do it, and then it just keeps happening, and then you're just spamming X over the time, and there's so much more, and you're like, and it's great. It's a good one. If you haven't played the game, would recommend. But yeah, I guess the final opinion, or final thing to say, is that the line between these can be debated, and it will become more blurred as games evolve. But what I just hope that this little presentation can kind of like open up people a bit more to the concept of it. Especially, it was nice to hear people talk about QuickTime events as something that can be implemented well. It's not just like slap bang in there just to save time. But I just thought it would be nice to peel apart this like weird little mechanic that has a love-hate relationship, mainly hate, with the gaming community. But yeah.
Well done.
I think the gaming community has a hate relationship with most things.
Yeah, I think the gaming community has a hate relationship with games, honestly.
Yeah. They just hate fun. Having fun is bad.
Having fun is bad.
How dare any of you?
I guess
and you're a terrible person for having fun.
Yeah, that's my lukewarm defense of QuickTime.
Good. Well done, Max. You were one of the only presenters to stay within the time limit. Woo!